Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopita Navara Girivaradari Yashodanandana Bhaja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Namam Jaiva Narotanam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nastapraya Shubhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Seva Bhagavati Utamash Loke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki. Today we are reading from the glorious Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 17, verses 13 to 20. Lots of verses today. So we are super excited. We'll start with, I will chant the Sanskrit and read the synonyms for the first verse, and then I will chant the Sanskrit and read the translation and purport for all of the other verses. Krishnam hradad vinisgrantam divyasra gandhavashasham mahamani ganakirnam jambudana pariksritam upalabhyotita sarve labda prana ivashava pramoda nebritatmano gopa pritya bire bire. Synonyms: Krishnam, Lord Krishna; Hradat, from out of the lake; Vinisgrantam, rising up; Divya, divine; Srak, wearing garlands; Ganda, fragrances; Vashasham, and garments; Mahamanigana, by many fine jewels; Akirnam covered, Jambudana with gold, Pariskritam decorated, Upalabhya seeing, Utitaha rising up, Sarve all of them, Labda Hara whichever gain their vital force, Eva just as, Ashava senses, Pramoda with joy, Nibrita Atmana being filled, Gopaha the cowherds, Britya with affection, Abire Bire embraced him. Translation: resuming his description of Krishna's chastisement of Kalia, because he had just given the history of Kalia, Sukadev Goswami continued, Krishna rose up out of the lake wearing divine garlands, fragrances, and garments, covered with many fine jewels and decorated with gold. When the cowherds saw him, they all stood up immediately, just like an unconscious person's senses coming back to life. Filled with great joy, they affectionately embraced him. 10:17:15. Yashoda Rohini Nando Gopyo Gopaschakadava Krishnam Sametya Labdeha Asansushka Naga Api. Having regained their vital functions, Yashoda, Rohini, Nanda, and all the other cowherd women and men went up to Krishna. O descendants of Kuru, even the dried up trees came back to life. 10:17:16. Ramaschachutam alingya jahasasyanubhavavit premna tam ankam aropya puna punar arekshata gavalvrsavatsataryo lebire paramamhudam. Lord Balaram embraced his infallible brother and laughed, knowing well the extent of Krishna's potency. Out of great feelings of love, Balaram lifted Krishna up on his lap and repeatedly looked at him. I think that's so beautiful. Out of great feelings of love, Balaram lifted Krishna up on his lap and repeatedly looked at him. The cows, bulls, and young female cows also achieved the highest pleasure. 10:17:17. Nandam vipra samagatya guravasa kalatrika uchuste kalia grasto distya muktastavatmaja. All the respectable Brahmanas, together with their wives, came forward to greet Nanda Maharaj. They said to him, your son was in the grips of Kalia, but by the grace of providence, he is now free. 10:17:18. Dehi danam dvijatinam Krishna nirmukti hetave Nanda prita mana rajan gasuvarnam tadadishat. The Brahmanas then advised Nanda Maharaj, to assure that your son Krishna will always be free from danger, you should give charity to the Brahmanas. With a satisfied mind, O king, Nanda Maharaj then very gladly gave them gifts of cows and gold. 10:17:19. Yashodapi Mahabhaga Nashta Labda Prajasati Parishvajankam Aropya Mumu Chashru Kalamuhu. The greatly fortunate Mother Yashoda, having lost her son and then regained him, placed him on her lap. That chaste lady cried constant torrents of tears as she repeatedly embraced him. 10:17:20. Tam ratrim tatra rajendra shut tribdhyam shrama karshitaha ushurvaya kashogava kalindya upakulata. O best of kings, Parikshit, because the residents of Vrindavan were feeling very weak from hunger, thirst, and fatigue, they and the cows spent the night where they were, lying down near the bank of the Kalindi. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami points out that although the people were weak from hunger and thirst, they did not drink the milk from the cows present there because they feared it had been contaminated by the serpent's poison. The residents of Vrindavan were so overjoyed to get back their beloved Krishna that they did not want to go back to their houses. They wanted to stay with Krishna on the bank of the Jamuna so that they could continuously see him. Thus, they decided to take rest near the riverbank. You can join me if you know the prayers. Om Agyanatimirandasya Jananjana Chalakaya Chakshurun Militam Jaina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Garamayam Dadadi Shwabadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Param Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sudhe Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vajakapatubhyasya Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatara Shatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Shivasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Thank you so much for joining this Srimad Bhagavatam class. I sincerely request the blessings of all the assembled devotees who are I'm looking at the pictures, and every single one of you are completely worshipable to me, being so dear to Lord Krishna. I see Hugo, I see Andrea, I see Isabel, I see Jeffrey, I see William, and I don't see everybody else, but I see their names, and seeing their names makes me so happy. I would call out each and every one of your names, but let's start. And I also beg the blessings of Adi Pushprabhu and all the senior devotees. And I also apologize for yawning so much. I just have a cold, so I'm like sick. I just want to actually start with reading from the Krishna book, this very section. And then we're going to go back to all the verses and we're going to discuss. So this chapter, it's actually called in the Krishna book, Extinguishing the Forest Fire. In the Srimad Bhagavatam, it's called The History of Kalia. So this section is when Krishna finally came out of Kalia's lake. He was seen by all his friends and relatives on the bank of the Jamuna. He appeared before them, nicely decorated, smeared all over with chandan pulp, bedecked with valuable jewels and stones, and almost completely covered with gold. The inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the cowherd boys and men, the gopis, Mother Yashoda, Maharaj Nanda, and all the cows and calves, saw Krishna coming from the Jamuna, and it was as though they had recovered their very life. When a person regains his life, naturally he becomes absorbed in pleasure and joyfulness. They each in turn pressed Krishna to their chests, and thus they felt a great relief. Mother Yashoda, Rohini, Maharaj Nanda, and the cowherd men became so happy that as they embraced Krishna, they thought they had achieved their ultimate goal of life. Balaram also embraced Krishna, but he was laughing because when everyone else had been so overwhelmed with anxiety, he had known what would happen to Krishna. Isn't that cool? All the trees on the bank of the Jamuna, along with all the cows, bulls, and calves, were full of pleasure because of Krishna's appearance there. The Brahmana inhabitants of Vrindavan immediately came with their wives to congratulate Krishna and his family members. And because Brahmanas are considered to be the spiritual masters of society, they offered their blessings to Krishna and his family on account of Krishna's release. They also asked Maharaj Nanda to give them some charity on that occasion. Being so pleased by Krishna's return, Maharaj Nanda gave many cows and much gold in charity to the Brahmanas. While Nanda Maharaj was thus engaged, Mother Yashoda simply embraced Krishna and made him sit on her lap while she shed tears continuously. So, yeah, I'll just finish this section. Since it was almost night and all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, including the cows and calves, were very tired, they decided to take their rest on the riverbank. And then we won't continue because then something happens after that, which is changing the topic. So it's so beautiful that the Bridge Bossies, their very lives is Krishna, right? We hear this again and again. And I was listening to a class of Narayani Devi this morning on these verses. She was actually giving them this class at the DC temple where I used to live, and I could hear Rukmini Walker's voice asking her questions in it. So it was really special. She was talking about how normally during the daily pastimes, during Krishna's daily pastimes, like the Bridge Bossies, they're not with him like 24 hours a day. Because, you know, Krishna wakes up in the morning and Mother Yashoda is with him in the morning. And then his friends come and they all have this festival of dressing Krishna for the day. And it's actually so beautiful. Like we can think as pujaris, if pujaris, you know, pujaris in the morning, they're dressing the deities of Krishna, right? And, you know, we could think, oh, like, you know, Krishna, out of his mercy, he's coming in the form of the deity so that we can like have the good fortune of dressing him. But actually, this is also happening in the spiritual world. The Bridge Bossies are also having a festival. Every single day is a festival of dressing Krishna in the morning. There's so many, you know, services that we do. Basically, deity service is practicing what they do in Vrindavan, because every single day there's a festival of cooking for Krishna. Who cooks for Krishna? Radharani, because she was blessed by Durvasa Muni to have the blessing that whatever she cooked, that person would be healthy and young and just full of all good fortune. So when Mother Yashoda heard that Radharani had gotten this blessing from Durvasa Muni, she was like, Radharani, please, will you cook for my Krishna? So Radharani actually cooks for Krishna every day. And there's so many different offerings given to Krishna during the day. So deity worship is really like engaging our senses for practice for serving Krishna in the spiritual world. And actually even like the arti ceremonies. So the Bridge Bossies, as far as I know, correct me or Sharan Prabhu if I'm wrong, but as far as I know, the Bridge Bossies, they're not actually offering like formal arti to Krishna. However, the demigods, they come and they offer formal arti to Krishna. And there's even pastimes of like the cowherd boys are looking at the demigods offering all of the formal arti to Krishna, and they're like, what are they doing? It's like so formal, and Krishna's kind of like a little bored, honestly, like, oh, like the demigods are offering me with so much awe and reverence. But then after the demigods finish their arti, the cowherd boys pick up the arti paraphernalia, and they're just like, oh, ha, 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 this is like what the demigods were doing. And they're just like not really like formally offering the arti, but they're kind of almost like joke offering the arti. But Krishna is so pleased by the cowherd boys offering of arti because they're doing it with, ecstatic love that is way beyond the demigods. And also Narayani was explaining in her class this morning that when Krishna, so Krishna, he gets dressed in the morning, right? And I'm sure he like eats a wonderful breakfast. And then he goes off to spend the day with the cowherd boys, herding the cows in the pastures. And there's actually books, by the way, that one can read that breaks down like every single part of Krishna's day. And you can read in great detail every single part of Krishna's day. They're amazing. I've read them, not all of them, but I've read some of them. And it's also explained that, so in the spiritual world, there's no real demons. There's just fake demons that come, rumors. Oh, okay. Thank you. There's just rumors of demons. But when Krishna comes and he performs his pastimes on this planet, there's real demons. And those real demons, although obviously, it says in the Bhagavad Gita that one of the reasons why Krishna comes to this material world is to annihilate the miscreants and to protect the devotees, and to also have his sweet pastimes to attract all of our hearts. Also, one of the more important reasons why the demons come is because if the demons didn't come, Krishna and his friends would be so busy playing that they would never eat their lunch that had been packed by Mother Yashoda and their respective mothers for them. So the demons have to come so that they can get out of their play bhava and kill the demon and then have their lunch. And then on the way back from the pastures during the day, it said, Narayani was saying in her class this morning that that's actually the time where the demigods come and worship Krishna. And so the Bridge Bossies are like, what is taking so long for Krishna to come home? And they're like, oh, it's because the demigods are worshiping them. So, and then, Krishna, he comes home. And then, as we know, also, we won't go into detail, but at nighttime, what does the gopis, they're like waiting for when is nighttime going to come, because during the nighttime, Krishna goes and performs the Rasa Leela with them, which, by the way, the Rasa Leela actually lasts for, is it a day of Brahma? A day of Brahma, which, how long is a day of Brahma, Gaurashan Prabhu? It's like millions and millions and millions and millions of years. It's 1,000 yuga cycles. Yeah. And each yuga cycle is a very, very, very extremely long time. So I don't remember all of the exact data. But can you imagine? Like, he's dancing with the gopis for a daytime of Brahma. We can't even conceive of it. But for them, they're in so much ecstasy that it just seems like a moment. And so whenever the Bridge Bossies are separated from Krishna, they're in so much separation that it's almost like they've lost consciousness. Like in this pastime, they actually lose consciousness, and they actually lose consciousness. Well, we understand that the cowherd boys had first lost consciousness because of the poison from Kalia and the lake, but then Krishna brings them back to life. But then they again lose consciousness because they're seeing Krishna in the coils of Kalia, and they're in so much anxiety for Krishna that they lose consciousness. And then we also understand, so they've all lost consciousness actually out of total anxiety for Krishna, except Narayani was saying in her class this morning that the gopis, they were actually dancing. It said in the commentaries of the acharyas that the gopis were actually dancing on the hoods with Krishna. So Krishna was actually having a Rasa Leela with the gopis on Kalia's hoods, which is like completely inconceivable if you think about it, like, okay, like it is inconceivable, the fact that Krishna is dancing with the gopis for so long, and that he also expands himself into multiple Krishnas to dance with each gopi, so that each gopi feels that they are just with Krishna. But then take it like to another level, that it's already inconceivable that Krishna is dancing on all of these hoods of this great serpent Krishna. And honestly, when I think about it, I mean, I'm a dancer. So for me, it's like, this is like one of my favorite pastimes, because I mean, if you just go to like Instagram for say, and you see like my Instagram, I will give a what's it called? It's a confession. It pops up ballet videos on my Instagram, and like I don't watch them so much, but sometimes I'll be like, I'll just look for a minute, like, wow, like that ballet dance is like so inconceivably beautiful, and it blows my mind, like what is actually possible by the human body, and then the reason why I love looking at the video is because I immediately think, like, this is in Kali Yuga on the earth planet, this is that dancing. And what is the dancing in the heavenly planets? And then I think, what is the dancing like in the Vaikunthas? And then I think, like, what is the dancing like in Goloka Vrindavan? And then I think, what is the dancing of Krishna? Like, I can't even, I literally cannot even conceive of it. And this is what Krishna is doing. And it just makes me love Krishna so much more when I think like that, because I'm just like, I can't even conceive of how amazing Krishna is. And then the fact that, if he's having a Ras Leela, he must also be like expanding himself on each of the hoods to dance with each of the gopis. So it's just like, I can't even, I sincerely pray that one day I can see this. Like just like, how like different devotees have like their different relationships with Krishna, and I'm very fallen and I'm not advanced, but I can understand how Kulavecha Sridhar, he's like, I don't want anything in the world. All I want is just to have Nimai like come and steal my bananas and argue the price with me for like the rest of the life. And I get some glimpse of this when I'm like, I don't want anything, like I just want to see Krishna dance. Like I just want to see Krishna dance. Actually, when I was a yogi before I became a devotee, when I first went to Jivamukti Yoga Studio, they had a picture of the Rasa dance in the yoga studio, and someone told me about the Rasa dance. And actually right then and there, it was like maybe my first day at Jivamukti, when I heard that God dances under the stars with his best friends all night, I was like, that's God, because my favorite thing to do growing up was to dance under the stars. So that's just always been like what I've wanted to see for Krishna. So they're all unconscious because they can't even just conceive of being without Krishna for a moment. And so when Krishna comes out of the lake, and he's so beautiful, it gives such a like depiction of how, just imagine, like close your eyes for a minute and just imagine like Krishna is coming out of the lake, and he's, you would think maybe that like after having this basically like battle, he might be a little disheveled, right? or like a little sweaty or something. This is like what we would have in this material world. Like if we had just gotten in a big thing, we would probably look a little disheveled, isn't it? No, he's not looking disheveled at all. He's nicely decorated, smeared all over with chandan pulp, bedecked with valuable jewels and stones, and almost completely covered with gold. Like this is how he's looking. And so everyone is just like,
Is it just me or we lost Champak?
We lost her.
I thought it was me.
Yeah, I thought it was you too, Jeffrey.
Too much ecstasy.
Yeah, she just blissed out. Okay, let me see if I can call the temple room.
I'm so sorry. Yeah. Yeah, it kicked me off and then it was installing updates. So anyways, yeah, so like if you think about it, they always give a joke, right? I remember one time I was listening to a lecture by Bhakti Purushottam Maharaj, and he was talking about the glories of Jagannath Puri, because he was saying that, you know, when people are in class, sometimes they're sleeping, right? And then they are sleeping in their job or they're sleeping in class, but then they wake up when it's time for prasadam. Yeah, you know, sometimes this is a real situation. And he was saying that this is actually the glory of Jagannath Puri, because you can become a pure devotee just by taking Jagannath Mahaprasadam. And so he was saying that, like, for him, that was like his Lord is Jagannath. He can just eat. But the point of bringing that up is that sometimes when we're conditioned souls, when we're engaging in Krishna consciousness, it's almost like our senses become dull, or we become less absorbed and awake. And then when we get something like food or something like, you know, something we perceive as exciting, we like wake up, right? That is a good barometer that we're conditioned, right? Because for someone who's Krishna conscious, it's exactly the opposite. The Bridge Bossies, they don't do anything. Their senses are completely absorbed in Krishna. They become awake when it's time to serve Krishna, and they become unconscious when they can't serve Krishna. It's the exact opposite of us. So we have to sincerely pray for the day that we can be like the Bridge Bossies. And so this is a very special opportunity for them, because they wanted to stay there on the bank of this lake to take their rest. And the reason that they wanted to do that is not actually for any reason except that they just wanted to be with Krishna. They wanted an excuse to stay with Krishna, right? And this is actually special when they get like extended periods of time with Krishna. And it's the same as the Govardhan pastime. Like the Govardhan pastime is so special because when Krishna lifts the Govardhan hill, it's actually a festival, because for 7 days and 7 nights, the Bridge Bossies, they are just with Krishna under the hill having a festival. Like they don't have to ever be separated from Krishna. So the Bridge Bossies, Indra was thinking, I'm going to send all these Sarmataka clouds and I'm going to send these columns of rain and I'm going to kill everyone. And they were just like, wow, we want this to last forever because we're with Krishna. Indra, it's said that in that pastime, Indra is so powerless that not even a single blade of grass on Govardhan was affected. He couldn't do anything to the Bridge Bossies. And so Narayani, she was saying in her class this morning that Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. Even when Krishna is in Dwarka, he sometimes has daydreams and he's calling out the names of the gopis and the gopas. And he does that in his dreams also. He's calling out the names of the gopis and the gopas. And that Krishna in Dwarka is actually his expansion. The original Krishna never leaves Vrindavan. And also when Krishna's in Dwarka, he goes back to Vrindavan at the nighttime to be with the Bridge Bossies. So it just, the whole point is that Krishna's heart is Vrindavan and the Bridge Bossies' heart is Krishna. So it's already 7:54. I don't know how that happened. It feels like I just started giving class. But let's open it up for comments, reflections, questions, corrections. Thank you all so much.
When that technical difficulty happened and we lost you for a quick moment, I was thinking, that's exactly how in the spiritual world, we're there playing, hanging out, and then for a quick second, we tune out, and then we come back, and Krishna says, okay, you're back. So maybe Champakalata, did you go back to the material world, lived a life, and then you came back to the reality of the Srimad Bhagavatam class?
Millions and millions of lifetimes.
Yeah.
That's how it's explained in Shastra, that it's just like a quick, like that was a bad dream, like we're in the spiritual world and then we just have a nightmare, and that's the millions and millions of lifetimes in the material world, and then we're back. But my Shiksha guru from DC, he always says something so beautiful. He says that actually, we must have gained something from all of those lifetimes in the material world. And he says that what we gain is we gain a greater appreciation for what we have in the spiritual world. And it actually increases our gratitude, and it actually increases our love for Krishna. So it even increases our love more, the fact that we were away and had that
It's a useful nightmare.
Yeah. And thank God we never make the same mistake again. Sometimes people ask that, well, would it be possible to do the same thing again? No. Because we're we know what that was about, and that was hell. And we're not going to do that again.
There's a question in the chat from Ananda Manjari. As far as I've heard, one of the reasons why Krishna dances with the gopis at night is that so his cowherd friends do not see him and the moods don't conflict. There's even one pastime where Mother Jashoda saw Krishna dancing with the gopis and couldn't fathom it. With this in mind, how do we perceive this pastime of Krishna dancing with the gopis in the daylight before everyone present?
It's a very good
question.
It's a very good question. So they were unconscious, right? So they didn't see Krishna dancing with the gopis. So in the nighttime, they're not there. And he's dancing with them in the daytime, but everyone except the gopis is unconscious. So they don't see it. And that is just a really beautiful, it is true that Krishna dances with the gopis at night so that the cowherd friends don't see and the moods don't conflict. Most of what I've heard is that most of the cowherd boys, they actually are how little boys and girls, they can make fun of each other when like a little boy likes a little girl. They're like, ew, like girls have cooties. Like that's so weird, you know? And the reason why that exists in this material world is because it's perverted reflection of what exists in the spiritual world. So like the cowherd boys, they're like, most of them think like, oh, like Krishna, like that's so weird, you know, like they like think it's kind of like weird, you know, Krishna's relationship with the gopis, and they don't, you know, they kind of like make fun of him or don't really want anything to do with that. But there's only a couple cowherd boys that are special, that actually get to like go to Radhakund and experience Krishna with the gopis at Radhakund. So there's only a couple cowherd boys that are considered to be like the most elevated cowherd boys that actually understand the relationship that Krishna has with the gopis.
Mature cowherd boys.
And I don't know that pastime where Mother Yashoda saw Krishna dancing with the gopis and couldn't fathom it. Where is that from? Do you know, Gorshan? Have you heard that before? I want to know your source in Annamanjari. Are you there? Do you remember what your source is? Yes, I will find it inside.
I only remember that I heard it from Indradyumna Maharaj, and I don't remember exactly when.
Oh, it was in one of his lectures, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, if it's from Indradyumna Maharaj, it's bona fide. Thank you. He knows so many esoteric things. Thank you, Ananda. Anybody else?
I want to say, like, there's one pastime that what you just shared reminds me of, but if there is another question, I would like to let the question come first.
I think, unless anybody has a question, you can go for it.
Okay, it actually also reminds me of a pastime that I heard from Indradyumna Maharaj, and it's about the cowherd boys debating whether Krishna is a cowherd boy or whether he is a forest dweller. And so they were like, well, you know, he is taking out the cows, so that makes him a cowherd boy, and he wakes up in the morning and eats breakfast just like us. But at night, he goes to bed like all of us, and then he to have a dance with the gopis, which makes him a forest dweller. And during lunch, he sometimes just walks away, and we know why he walks away, which is to also be with the gopis. And then the pastime ends when they are debating very enthusiastically that Krishna just comes back to when they were having lunch, and then he senses that there is this question in the air, like, is he a forest dweller and he is not really like us, or is he a cowherd boyfriend and he is just like us? And he just asks, so what you were talking about? And then with that question, the love awakened so much more within their hearts towards him that they actually forget about any importance of the question, and they just said, we just were talking about you, like what else can we talk about? It's about you. So that's just this sweet pastime.
That's so beautiful. Thank you for sharing. Could you all hear? Anybody else?
I just have a quick appreciation, Champakalata Sakhi, Devi Dasi Prabhu. Thank you so much for bringing in the lecture of Narayani, Devi Dasi Prabhu, and just even mentioning Rukmini Walker's name in class, because it's just having those Vaishnavis and that inspiration and that presence in the class is just really inspiring to me, and just makes my heart kind of so happy. So I'm gonna try to find that lecture that you're speaking of.
Yeah, if you go to ISKCON Desire Tree and then click on audio Srimad Bhagavatam class and then click on these verses, it's there. And those, I worship those exalted Vaishnavis. Okay, Hare Krishna devotees, now it's time for Darshan.
Okay, camera's on. Bhakti Devi, thank you. Bruce, thank you. Andrea, Bryn Prema and Preeti. Jeffrey Ekler Prabhu. Hemangi Sundaranandaji. Jeffrey Ekler, did you know if you stay for 30 consecutive nights, then Kustuba can only evict you through court? You knew that?
I'm over 30. So
Okay, that's it.
roommates we are.
Oh, was in charge. Maybe they don't care about the charge.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I think they didn't insert it later.
This is like so funny.
Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami Enam Rangan Maravindayatatam Bhagavatam Samansitam Purasundarangam Anuragpato Vitamaniya Viseshasubham Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami Andani Yasa Sakalam Driya Vriti Manti Pasyanti Panti Kayanti Niraham Prakanti Ananda Chimaya Sadhu Radhikasya Govindam Adipurusham Namaham Bhajami 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 Govindam
I got a side glance from Vasudev Prabhu, like a gopi. Okay. All right. Any reflections, angles of vision, voice cracks? William Prabhu, can you give us a voice crack? Okay. All right. Have a wonderful day. It was nice seeing you, nice spending time with you, dear devotees. So let's go back to the nightmare and bring Krishna there. it'll be a useful nightmare, right? Hare Krishna. Love you all. Hari Hari Bol.